Hello, and welcome to the Fresh Air Show. What is up, guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Fresh Air Show.
Hello!
Hello!
Now, before you get a bit too excited, guys, just bear in mind, if you haven't seen the length of the video yet, or audio, depending on what platform you're listening from, this is probably going to be a really short podcast. Yeah. Because the next one we'll be doing will be our Halloween one, and then we'll open that up with our Comic-Con sketch. So, yeah, just so you're aware for next time.
Hey!
So, how have you guys been since the last podcast?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, it's been pretty fun.
Well, I should know that for sure because, yep, it was my birthday this month.
Happy birthday!
Oh!
Yep,
At
Oh,
birth.
yeah.
Tip to
22.
him.
Yeah. So yeah, surprisingly, not that many people were actually there. Like, that and the cake wasn't even one that I was a fan of, and
Oh,
a little portion of my mind was thinking, I don't like the way the future's looking here.
oh no.
But it was still pretty amazing. Like, I still got some pretty good gifts. That one of which being Endgame on Blu-ray.
Ooh.
Nice.
So yeah. So Dudley, anything interesting happen recently?
Well, I guess as far as the fan base for Pokemon goes, I guess quite a lot has happened. For one, Detective Pikachu came out on DVD today.
Yeah.
If you are not fully caught up with the Pokemon anime, please skip to 300.
And also, for the first time in 22 years, and on your birthday, coincidentally, Ash finally beat a tournament in the league. Spoilers. I probably should have said that. Which is,
Yeah.
as far as
Just
exciting
put a
stuff
spoiler
goes.
warning or something.
Yeah. So yeah,
It finally happened.
Yep.
Yes.
Because
But-
every other time he's always been interrupted or it's been cut short. So
Yeah. But honestly, I don't wanna rule it out yet, but is this the beginning of the end? Is this gonna be the end of Ash's series?
Well, social media is buzzing right now. They're saying that Ash might be leaving the anime.
Me and my friend's theory is Ash's anime will end here, and then maybe they'll bring out some specials in years to come with him to end it off, like some big climax or something.
Who knows? Maybe the protagonist of the next series will be the Scottish trainers from Sword and Shield.
Oh,
That'd
that
be
would be amazing.
I would love
Especially
to see
if it was the version that the fans have made up.
that. Yes.
Part of me has realised, though, this means Ash won't be coming to the UK region, or the Scottish region.
Oh no.
Well, who knows? One story I remember you bringing up, Dudley. The one you shared on Facebook. Why don't you tell that one?
Remind me which one this was again. I do quite.
The one where you came home from work and a little uninvited guest was there with you.
Oh God! Nightmare fuel story. Okay.
Oh.
I thought this is more like a Halloween story, but I get you excited.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I finished work and went over to my car and sat in the car and began my 20-minute journey home. And on the way home, I was just minding my own business when I thought I heard a little buzzing sound. And I thought, that sounds like a fly moving around on the back left window of my car, but I can't really pinpoint it. So I was paying attention to the road, obviously, but I was kind of glancing occasionally to see if I could spot it flying around, and I couldn't.
Hmm.
Then the buzzing stopped, went a bit further in the journey, buzzing happened again. And then as I was coming up to my house, I heard the buzzing again, but it sounded more like it was coming from my shoulder. And I thought, okay, maybe the fly actually flew into my jacket and got stuck. So I kind of made an effort to try and open it, and nothing happened. Pulled up at home, heard the buzzing again, got out of the car, opened my jacket, nothing flew out. And I was like, okay, this is getting a bit weird now. Whatever it was, it's in the car. And then I started walking towards the mobile home I live in. And,
You started growing wings.
yes. I wish. And then I heard a buzzing, which was very, very close. And then I looked down at my name badge that was on my jacket. And there was a wasp stuck behind my name badge on my jacket.
Oh, God.
And I thought I could try and flick it with my finger, but oh yeah, sting. So I got my key and managed to get out. It was stuck on the pin, between the pin and the badge that was keeping it. It wasn't like impaled or anything. It was just stuck in the. But
in between.
And I thought, okay, fair enough. Flicked it off, and then it dawned on me that I had a wasp stuck on my chest for a 20-minute drive in a car, which I was driving.
Jeez. Oh, how did it not sting you? Wow.
Well, it was quite a thick jacket, and I guess his logic was, I'm stuck, not I'm in danger. But there was a time before that, ages and ages ago, where I was driving up to a motorway roundabout, and I had the right window open. I was just minding my business, so you can picture me driving down the road like, do, and then suddenly out the corner of my eye, something flew through the window, and I thought, what's that? Looked down, and a wasp had landed on my hand while I was driving. And then I've always had a fear of wasps, but I looked at it, and I was like, I just looked down, looked up again, and thought, oh. And then it flew out the window, and then I was like, wow, that was interesting for a few seconds.
Yeah, the trick is just to stay calm, and eventually it'll leave you. It'll go back to its own thing.
Yeah.
Something similar happened to me in high school.
Oh?
It was gym class. We were all outside, and it was like that sort of, not raining, but it was like a heavy, wet morning where the air was heavy with moisture, like fresh after rain.
Yep.
Me and all the girls were running track or playing, just running in general, I think.
Right.
And we were taking a few seconds for a break, and a wasp came buzzing by, and as girls do when they see a flying insect of any sort, everyone started screaming and running around except me, because I know better, obviously.
Wow.
And it actually came over and landed on my arm. Now, remember when I said that the air was really heavy with moisture? That's important because the wasp was wet.
Oh.
Yeah.
They can't fly in rain?
So I had this potentially dangerous, very angry buzzing, wet wasp on my arm. And all the girls were like, oh God, Ryan, don't panic. And I'm the only one not panicking.
Wow.
And I just lightly go, I blow on it, and it goes away.
It's like a more modern day version of Snow White.
Yep.
It sounded like it singled you out as the only one who wasn't flapping around, and it was like, she's safe. I'm going to land on her arm.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, a breeze. Time for me to fly away.
Yeah. Speaking of bug encounters, I had quite a few painful ones when I was in Spain. Now, Spain, I'm not usually the biggest fan of heading to because I'm not one for the sun, like I might have brought up before. But it's still interesting because there are quite a lot of tropical insects and animals there. And so when you're driving in Spain, inside a car is going to be boiling. So your option is to either turn on the air conditioning or open up the windows. Now, you can open up the windows anytime you want, but it comes at a price. And what is that price? Suicidal grasshoppers. Now, I'm not even joking. Like, there was like a plague or something of like grasshoppers. Now, this wasn't like the little 1-inch grasshoppers like you get in the UK. These are like fist-sized grasshoppers.
Were they grasshoppers or were they locusts?
I don't know. It's some that's what I remember. And
It's a
Because they
jumpy
do look like,
green thing.
yeah, they do look like grasshoppers.
anyway, I remember we were heading to our new stop to our new villa, I guess, because we've been moving from house to house every week in that holiday, and I because grasshoppers are often trying to cross the road. Whenever there's a car coming by, they just panic and sort of jump towards the car. And if you're
And maybe if I headbutt it hard enough.
and if you're unlucky enough to have the windows open, there's the likelihood of it jumping into your car. I tell you, this happened twice before that, and one instant that I definitely remember. I remember I had the windows down. I was all hot and groggy. Like, oh god, what else could happen? Like, because the move.
What else could go wrong?
Because the moving to house was pretty stressful enough. And I had the windows down, and all of a sudden, I felt this thing impact my face. Like,
Oh,
damn it. And I was like,
did someone punch me?
I was like, okay, I guess there's nothing to worry about. And so I, like, sigh, like, and exhale, and as I'm looking down, I see this giant grasshopper on my chest, and I was like, get it off! And my dad noticed, and he nearly swerved off the road, because he slightly panicked as well, and I was like, and the grasshopper was just hopping around frantically, and eventually it gets to like the rim of like the open window, and Dad was like, "Hey, why don't you take a picture of it?" And I was like, "Really? We almost died."
I have the image ingrained into my head. I do not need a picture.
Yeah, and I was like, "No," and I just sort of swatted it out, and he started laughing, and I was like, "That wasn't funny. It was painful." So
Those things can pack a surprising whack.
yeah,
That grasshopper's family got the newspaper that morning hoping for a picture of the suicidal son. And Dad didn't provide the picture, so they were just crying and they didn't know what happened. Oh, it's just...
so yeah. You're listening to The Fresh Air Show. Now, I know this seems like a bit of a random topic to bring up, but I've wanted to bring it up for a long time. Dreams that happen at night. Yeah, they're pretty fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, I think because of my Asperger's, I think my dreams are a bit different than normal people's dreams.
Yeah.
Like, whereas some people's dreams tend to make some sort of sense, mine's are just utter nonsense. Like, sometimes, like, this is just a scenario of what might happen. Like, it'll just be images of, like, scenarios and different characters that I know of. Like, I could be sitting on a beach for all I know, and then all of a sudden I get the image of, like, Mr. Game & Watch glitching across the screen. And then I follow his gaze, and, oh hey, look, Pinkie Pie lives there, even though apparently it's one of my friend's houses. Like, you know, it's just nuts.
I know exactly what you mean. You'll be talking to a character in a dream, you'll turn your head, and you'll turn back to talk to the same character, and instead of Daffy Duck being there, it'll be like jewel from Rio or something, and you won't even acknowledge it, but in your head you acknowledge it, and you just carry on like nothing's changed, and you wake up and you think, why didn't I notice that? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know, what I think is really fascinating is how, even though you're asleep, the world around you, like the sounds it produces, sometimes affect your dreams as well. Like, one dream I remember in particular, and this happened really recently, like maybe a couple of weeks ago. And basically, I was dreaming I was a superhero, like part of a superhero team, and I'm not sure what my powers were, but I do know that one of the members of the team was a speedster, like he was super fast, etc. And for whatever reason, we were like preparing to move on to our next mission or whatever, but for some reason the speedster was like stuck in place, like he'd been trudging through glue or something, like he couldn't move. And he was like running in place like Sonic does, like
and the old speedster loses his speed episode.
So the speedster was like stuck on the spot, trying to run out of his situation. Like I was trying to help him as well, and he couldn't move. And then all of a sudden, I get the idea. Hold on, I'll be back in a moment. I can figure this out. And then all of a sudden, I wake up, and I hear the sound of my neighbour's lawn mowing outside.
Oh.
And so I wanted to go back.
Oh, it makes sense now.
Because now I wanted to go back into that dream and say, "Don't worry, I found the issue. Let's help you out of that situation."
Yeah,
damn it.
Neighbor, could you turn off the lawnmower? My friend appears to be stuck in place because of the sound.
Yeah.
What is that you're talking about?
Don't you hate it when you have a really long-winded dream and you're actually enjoying the story of the dream, I say, and then you wake up just when it's getting interesting, and it's like, no, I wanted to... I could give you a funny example of something that's like, I've had sometimes when I'm getting up for work, and the alarm's going, you see stuff in my dream going along with that. But I always remembered one dream I had where I used to have a bunk bed to myself when I was younger, where I was on the top bunk, and basically I guess I was sat by a lake, but you were seeing it out of my eyes, and every time this giant fish jumped out of the water, I started giggling because every time it flipped its tail, it was tickling my foot. But I could actually feel my foot being tickled. So I was like, "What's going on?" And then when I woke up, my cat was at the foot of my bed, and his tail was going back and forth on my foot. And I was like, that was just funny. I always remember that.
Yep, that's another scenario
something
like that.
kind of similar happened to me once. Like, I dreamt I was in a cave somewhere, and I was looking up at a bunch of bats making a chirping sound. And I was like, do bats make that sound? I guess so. I mean, they're doing it now. Then I woke up and I realised it was my brother's phone doing the alarm, which back then was set to crickets chirping like that.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, that makes much more sense.
So have you ever heard of lucid dreaming?
Yes, I have. I've tried it, and I always fail.
Yeah, I've wanted to try it out, and I've never succeeded. Like, all I want to do is just to take on the form of my avatar, but apparently not. Someone always needs to interrupt me by making noise in the house.
Yeah.
Well, I've had a few experiences where I've pulled it off, and that was before I knew that lucid dreaming, what the name of it was, because I assumed I guess some people would experience it sometimes. I used to have this dream that always went the same way. You know, when you get that dream where you've had it before and you're like, I know what's going to happen. And so it used to be, I'm going around some sort of theme park sort of place, and I'd go around a corner, and you get to this ominous looking dark tunnel, And that's when the Velociraptors from Jurassic Park got loose. And then for the rest of the dream, it was a nightmare, and it was constantly, you'd be trying to get around the park without being spotted by them, or like you'd have to hide under quilts and things. And if they spotted you, you die and probably wake up. Yeah.
Oh God.
So one time, I want to say this is like the 4th time I had the dream.
Mm.
I was going around a corner or heading in that direction, and I thought, no, I know what happens when I get down to that tunnel. I don't really want to be doing that. So instead, I went in a different direction, and I went down to the coast of this island theme park I was on, caught a boat across to a town, and went to an arcade instead. And I was like, oh, I actually made a conscious effort to get away from that scenario.
I like no magical scenarios. Like, I'm not going to sprout wings and fly to Cloud Kingdom. No, I'm gonna go straight to the arcade.
Exactly.
Do that in real life, but no.
Yeah.
I've only had like brief flashes of realizing I was in a dream. I'm like, wait a second, I'm in a dream. Face through the floor. And then I don't do it, and I'm like, okay, this is real life then I wake up and I'm like, dang it.
Oh, so close yet so far.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of dreams where I realised I was in a dream and then probably did a couple of things for a few seconds or like a couple of minutes and then woken up. And I've also had sometimes because where I work, I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get to work to 4 o'clock in the morning. And sometimes I'll be having a dream and it's like, this fat shopping trolley's over there, da-da-da-da-da. Oh, I've got to wake up in a minute. Don't wake up. And then a couple of seconds later, my alarm goes off and I'm like, how the heck did I know?
That's
Body
pretty.
clock is weird.
That's pretty similar to my superhero dream. Like, hold on, I'm gonna figure this out. Wakes up. Okay, what's the problem? Like, some dreams, they do make some sense, but I remember one dream I do remember having, and that really blew my mind. I remember me and my younger brother were like going into like a space shuttle, and for some reason there were like several other cartoon characters that were heading with us as well. Like, yep, this is the dream team that is destined to explore space. And I remember at the end of the dream, the shuttle was taking off, blasting off, and for some reason, remember, my younger brother was there in the dream with me, and my mum wakes me up because we were both pretty young at the time, and I was like, oh, dang it. But it's still, my brother appeared in the dream, and so when he was awake, I questioned him about it, and I was like, did you dream about us going into space? And he was like, yeah, I did.
Spoopy.
And the obvious question I asked him was, what did I miss? It was like I missed out on watching a TV show episode, and I just missed out on watching the ending, and I was like, tell me everything.
What did you miss?
I don't know, like, apparently he heard someone say, don't do it!
and then SpongeBob crashed the rocket into Earth or something, I don't know.
Maybe it was
or
just...
something equally nonsensical.
There's a thing I've seen on the internet where I've always wondered. Obviously, I imagine. Do you think because they've kind of done experiments on this in, let's say, 20 years' time? I know they kind of hook someone up to some wires. Like, I'm assuming it was all safe and stuff. And basically, they got given a picture of a bird to look at, and so they look at the picture of the bird, and then the screen replicates the image in their mind. And it came up with a pretty brief outline of the bird in the picture. If you want to go look it up, it's pretty interesting. But what I want to know is, imagine if you could do that with someone who was dreaming or trying to explain a memory.
Yeah.
I think that would make life so much better. Like, if you could think of a book you wanted to write or a film you wanted to make, you could just make it in your head, and it would save so much work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
Imagine all the
always.
zany cartoons that could come out of that.
Yep. Ah. You know, just going back to my dream story, like, that reveal that me and my brother sort of shared the same dream, as fascinating as it was, it led me to thinking that if I dreamed about anyone that I knew of, it meant that
They'd have the same dream.
they were having the same dream. Yeah, so, which reminds me of another dream that I had. And again, I was pretty young, and I remember it was like this sort of indoor. Me and my primary school class, we were at this indoor skiing center, and
Mhm.
it was lit up like neon green. And I remember we were all sitting down, and the teacher and the instructor was there telling us what to do and what not to do. And so I look down and I see that we're in like sledges or toboggans. And the thing is, they didn't act like sledges. They acted a bit more like go-karts or something. Like, I just tell it where to go, and I'm like, wee.
If I never had those in real life. Oh wait, snow buggies.
Snow
Is that what
buggies.
they're called?
Not quite, but along those lines. So anyway, I distinctly remember my teacher and the instructor were just telling everyone, like, try not to bump into everyone else. And I remember, like, zooming behind everyone in the back, like, and I distinctly
Don't bump
remember,
into anybody. I'm gonna bump into everybody.
yeah, which leads directly into the point of the story. I remember there was one student in my class who I didn't exactly get along well with, and I because I was in my dream, I was like, why not get back at him somehow? And so I remember every time I like passed him, I would like like hit him on the back of the head, like every time I passed, like, take that and that. And I remember him being really annoyed, and by the time I woke up, I was like, oh god, he's gonna know about this because he potentially dreamt the same dream. Oh god, please don't hurt me. So yeah, that's out there.
You know what an out of body experience is.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I've heard of them.
well, I had a dream where I was, well, I'm kind of going off basis what I remember. Just I was kind of led down on the floor. Maybe I'd collapsed at a shopping store or something. I don't know. And I was the like ghost or something looking down on my body as I was floating into the air. But it wasn't creepy. It was fun because I was flying, and it actually felt like I was flying.
Mm.
But it, like, you know, if you have a dream, hypothetical, if you have your hands chopped off, you feel the pain of it when you're sleeping, but you have no idea what it actually feels like in real life. So to like feel like you're floating in the air and imagining what that would feel like, and your body actually feels like it, is pretty interesting.
You know, I know I'm cutting in quite a bit, but there's just so much to dive into.
Yeah.
Have you ever, speaking of floating, have you ever had that experience in bed? Like, this could happen at any time. Like, have you ever had this experience? Like, you're in your bed, you're just on the verge of slumber, but then all of a sudden your body arches upwards, and then you just drop, and suddenly you're like, ah! God damn it, I was going to sleep!
Dream. Or when you, like, twitch really violently.
Apparently, like, for me, my body just arches upwards, like uncontrollably, like, yeah, and then it just drops me, like, are you serious? I'm trying to sleep. I was just about to.
It sounds like you two have been possessed by something up there.
Oh god.
I think you should see someone about this.
Ugh, that's what I'm scared about. I feel like That's probably like the worst case scenario, that there's a spirit coming in and just sort of lifting me up and just dropping me. Like, has that ever happened? Have you ever experienced that?
I haven't. I haven't really had a twitch, but I was gonna say I've had dreams where I believe I'm falling, and then I'll wake up and I'll clutch the beds in a sudden panic, like, oh god, like, because it felt like you were falling and you want to grab something. And it's like, what about you, Rowan?
Yeah, I do occasionally have like sort of twitches where I'm like, I'm so warm and comfy and I'm drifting off and
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
leap a foot off the bed. One time I had a dream I was on my bike going down a sort of slope, and I thought I'd hit like a rock, and you know how sometimes when you're on your bike and you hit something, you go like over the handlebars?
Yeah.
I felt like that had happened. I'd hit a rock, I'd gone over the handlebars, and honest to God, I think I went like a whole foot off my bed.
Oh god.
I went flying.
Jeez. If only they can incorporate that to wake up heavy sleepers. I know there's a video out there. Well, as much as I'd like to keep this conversation going, I'm afraid we're going to have to cut it short in terms of what happens. So, anything you want to end off with before we stop?
Yes. Your grasshoppers in Spain story. If you're trying to blame the grasshoppers for forgetting to react to Daleks in Manhattan, you failed miserably.
Good. Rowan, anything?
No, nothing at all.
Alright, so...
I can't top that.
So, yeah, we'll see you guys next time. But, until next time, just bear in mind, if you're heading to Glasgow's MCM Comic-Con on the 28th this year, on a Saturday, if you see anyone that looks like Alice Angel, Boris the Wolf, and some other black and white-ish character, then that
He refuses to tell us.
Then that... yeah, then that will be us. So, you'll have the chance to meet us if you're actually die-hard fans. So, yeah. We'll see you guys then. So, time to say goodbye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
See ya.
Until Halloween.
See ya then.
Yeah. Bye.
You have been listening to The Fresh Air Show. Leave a comment down below or email Fresh Powder. See you next month for a whole new slew of content. I'm talking really fast right now because it's what they do at the end of the radio shows.